Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Anita Anello, your host of the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast. Today, I have a new friend of mine, Sarah Noel Block. And one of the things that we were talking about today, you guys are going to be so incredibly blessed. And if you listen in to what we're going to talk about in this conversation about generating leads in our small businesses, if you're an independent consultant, if you have a small organization, Sarah's really going to bring it for you today. So, Sarah, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to just talk to you today. As you guys know, for those of you that have been following our show for lots of years now, one of the things that I do is we kind of have like a pre-conversation. And I love how when two people come together that don't know each other very well, there's always like a lining up of goals and aligning up of minds and aligning up of just priorities about what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to talk about what Sarah has. She calls this, I'm going to look at my notes to make sure I get it right, the lean marketing engine. So Sarah, can you
Yeah.
start with a little bit of like your background? How did you get started in all this? Like you're a genius, I can tell already from just chatting with you for a couple minutes in our pre-convo. How did you get started and like where did you get some of this expertise and the way that you serve your clients?
Well, I've been in marketing since like the dawn of time. My just right out of school, I was in
Yeah.
marketing and I've always worked with small marketing departments. So I've either been a solo marketer.
Mhm.
Actually, one time I was a one-person marketing department for a seven company group.
Wow.
And after that experience, I just bounced from small marketing department to small marketing department, helping them build their foundations and their strategies
Mhm.
so they could do more with less.
Oh, I love
And
that.
eventually, tiny marketing came to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so what's your passion? Obviously marketing, but like in that, marketing can be a big umbrella. So
Yeah,
tell
it's a
us
huge
what's your
umbrella.
yeah, tell us what's your passion in that marketing umbrella.
Yes. So organic inbound marketing is where I am. No ads, no cold pitching, nothing
Yeah.
like that. I'm working with a lot of businesses where it's really important to build relationships with people in order
Mm,
to sell to them. So I help you build these strategies that allow you to build these relationships at scale.
yeah. That's so powerful because one of the things that I notice in having spent time in copywriting and marketing in the last 6 or 7 years in my business, and having come from a corporate job that I did not want to do anything that related to sales and marketing at that time. And then stepping into it now, and it's like I can't unsee what I now know about marketing. But one of the things that I notice in people's messaging is there's probably two things in particular that are really common. Number one, a lot of the messaging focuses 100% on them first. And there's right some challenges with
Oh, I've
that.
seen
And then
that.
the other thing is I don't know about you, Sarah, but I get hit up on LinkedIn every single day. Hey, you want to do this thing? Hey, you want to do like cold out? Hey, you want to work in like a $65 an hour SAP project or whatever? And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, that's so sweet, but that's like not my skill
I
set.
don't know you.
I know. Not only do I not know you, and I'm pretty sure you're from like maybe not even like on the same continent that I am, which is fine. I don't mind that. I work with people all around the world, but the cold outreach that feels like it feels yucky, it feels uncomfortable, right? And the reason that I bring that context in the conversation is oftentimes for the audience that I serve that are consultants that are moving into needing to learn the important skills of sales, what they
Mhm.
start doing is kind of like rapid fire, like bam, 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 bam. And yet, what you said and what I want to talk about is missing the people element. So let's talk about that a little bit first and break down. Um, we know, you and I know, and let's talk about it in front of the audience that people do business with people. So how do we help our like shift something in our mindset today, Sarah, would you please, so that we all understand better how important it is that we build relationships with actual people.
Yeah, I can shift that mindset based off of the conversations I have. So, one of my offers, part of that is interviewing my clients' customers.
Oh,
And I take advantage of that, I'm always asking the question, what's the first thing you do when you realize that you have some sort of challenge? You're stuck, you have a problem. And almost across the board, they always say, I go to my network, I go to the people I trust.
Mhm.
And that says it all. And I'm working with clients who are selling high ticket.
Mhm.
They're selling to B2B. So a lot
Yeah.
of times when people think about that, they think, well, B2B is selling to a business. It's not the same. It's not about relationship building. Who do you think is running those businesses? It's
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And when it's high ticket, you need to build those relationships even
Mm.
more. You need even more trust.
Yeah.
So those conversations were a real pivotal point for me where I was like, okay, relationship building is all that matters,
Yeah.
but we need to figure out how to do this at scale so it's doable.
Hmm. That's so exciting. Okay, I love that. It's, this is going to be an amazing conversation already. I'm so happy to have you here. Like just being able to pick your brain and have your genius in my audience is really powerful right now. So how about we kind of transition into like with the idea of people first and our messaging around relationships, building the relationships is kind of the foundation. Start
Hmm.
talking to me about your lead. I just want to get it right. The lead marketing engine. What is like give us an
Lean
idea.
as in
Oh, sorry.
skinny.
Yes, got it, got it. I did write that down. So lean marketing engine. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Okay, so let's work through that and then we can dive deeper into all of those pieces. So I'll
Yeah,
give you the big picture first.
yeah.
First is identifying that dream client. And a lot of times people think that means niching down to a specific industry or, being super narrow.
Mm-hmm.
But what I run through with my clients is let's journal
Hmm.
on the traits that your favorite clients have had.
Oh,
And a
nice.
lot of times we'll find that they have similar traits, like maybe they always happen to have gone through a merger before they need me.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yeah.
um, you also want to look at triggers. What are typical triggers that cause someone to reach out to you? Those are great ways to identify a dream client over specifically saying, they have to have this many employees and be in this
Mm,
industry.
yeah.
Instead, look at traits and triggers that
Okay.
your favorite clients have had. So, dream client, and then signature offer. So,
Hmm.
you have one place that you're pushing people all the time. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
you need to have one offer, it just means that you have a bullseye that you're getting people to.
Hmm.
And then main channel is the
Hmm.
third piece of it. So that doesn't have to be social media if you don't want it to be. It could be a niche community. It needs to be a watering hole where your
Yeah.
dream clients spend time.
Mm.
Fourth is core content. So,
Hmm.
what is the one anchor piece that you're going to create consistently where you can show value, build trust, and get people to know you? It's basically
Mm.
the visibility piece.
Yeah.
Then we have lead gen. So, I like two lead gen pieces. I like a passive lead magnet that's just
Hmm.
always on, dripping people in slowly,
Hmm.
and then an active lead generator, and that's time sensitive and happens once a month, once a quarter, but it brings in a flood of people at one time
Hmm.
because there's that FOMO. You have
Yeah.
to do it during
Yeah.
this set period because it's not happening any other time.
Right. Right.
Then
Awesome.
the sixth piece is the gateway offer. So that's an entry point for people to come into that is built to upsell people to that signature offer.
Mm. Okay, cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, can you break those down a little bit farther for us? So if somebody's listening and they're like and if conceptually up here, I understand what you're talking about, Sarah, but what if somebody's listening and they're like, I need more information?
Yes, let's start with the gateway offer
Mhm.
because that experience can feed everything else. So we'll
Okay.
start there. And with my clients, it's the first thing I work on. Like, let's build this gateway offer. So then we know what our dream clients are, where they spend their time, what offers that matter.
Yeah.
So the gateway offer is designed to upsell them, but it's also designed to gather all of the information you need to feed your engine so you
Mhm.
know everything that you need to know about them.
Mhm.
It's a 3-part offer. So it starts with an interview. They're usually
Mhm.
like 60 to 90 minutes, but that's where you're gathering all of that information. You're finding out their challenges, what their goals are, what has worked, what hasn't worked. But it's also times that you can sprinkle in these questions about your market, like what social media channels do you hang out on? What kind of content do you prefer? Do you listen to
Yeah.
podcasts? Do you watch videos?
Yeah.
What kind of events do you attend? What
Mhm.
communities are you part of?
Mhm.
So, gathering all of that information allows you to inform your engine and what you should be doing.
Okay.
So that's part one. Part two is the documented strategy or blueprint for what their transformation should look like. So, what
Okay.
could you do to get from point A, where you're feeling the pain, you're in the challenge, to point B, where you've solved it and you're on the
Mhm.
other side of it? So, you build out that strategy for them. And this allows you to get the yes, I agree with this right in that entry offer. So, you know what your signature offer should look like. It's a way to be
Okay.
able to customize it. So, it's a little bit different for every person and it meets their needs.
Mhm.
And then the last part, part three, is a review session. You always want it
Okay.
live. So you send them the documented version a few days before the live review. So they have time to look over it, come up with questions, probably come up with pricing objections.
Yeah.
You have your live session. And during that, you're answering those questions. You're doing live revisions. Like if there's something they're pushing back on, tweak it live, get
Yeah.
their yes on that. So you're
Yeah.
getting these little micro yeses all along the
Mm.
way. Like you
Awesome.
agree with this moving forward plan. You
Yeah.
talk to them about what execution would look like. Like, this is the strategy, and this is what it would look like if I were to do it for you.
Mhm.
So you talk pricing on that call too. And then you can answer any objections that might come up along the way. So I usually see about a 75% conversion rate from gateway offer to your signature offer.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's what that
How do
looks
you,
like.
yeah, how do you help people overcome the objections that come up when they're on that discovery call, sales call, whatever you want to call it?
Usually, because, well, my sales calls are super short. They're like 15 minutes because I'm moving them to that gateway offer so I can do a deeper dive. I'm not
Okay.
going to be able to diagnose your problem and give you a fix in a 30-minute discovery call.
Yeah.
So, your gateway offer, it takes over that discovery period, the onboarding, and the proposal. It's like
Mm.
all wrapped up into one.
Got it.
So you need your gateway offer to be priced just right to not be a impediment to moving forward
Oh,
with that. It needs to be
yeah.
like, of course I would do that.
Yeah.
So I usually see between like, I've seen as low as 350, 450, and
Hmm.
as high as 1500, but
Yeah.
usually it's between 10 and 25% of your main offer. You
Got it.
want it
Okay.
strategically priced so
Yeah.
it's low enough that they don't need to get approvals from a bunch of people,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's high enough that you know that they can afford your signature offer.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Oh, okay. All right. Keep going. I got a couple more questions as we go.
Okay. Any questions on the gateway offer?
I just the objections, like how do you handle objections? So, and you talked about pricing. I love the fact that you also gave a range of the price and then as a percentage of the higher offer. So then that gives people not like it has to be this way, but
Mhm.
in your business, this is how you implement. So I love that. It's more of a framework approach. That's what I do in my business. I love a framework because it allows us as the entrepreneur, the coach, the consultant on our side to be able to serve our clients where they're at better. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk about the objections.
Hmm.
So you can just use kind of some trigger words to prompt finding out what those objections are.
Okay.
So I usually ask, because there's a section in the documented version of moving forward, what it would look like, and you give them the
Okay.
pricing of what it would look like. So I
Hmm.
always ask, what are the pros and cons you see for moving forward? And
Hmm.
that will prompt them to tell you any objections that are coming up that you can address.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's going to be some sort of question about
Mhm.
what moving forward would look like or pricing.
Yeah.
So to handle those, when you have that moving forward section, connect the dots. They've told you what they want their life to look like and
Hmm.
what their challenges are. So everything that you say you're going to do, you need to connect it to one of those challenges or
Mm.
goals that they talked about. Use
Yeah.
their own words. I like to
Yeah.
quote them.
Yeah.
I'll take quotes straight from that transcript and put it in there so they can understand why I'm proposing the solution that I'm proposing.
Love that.
So that's one way, is just connect the dots between your solution and what they talked about.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so just for the audience, because this is really important, what Sarah said is she mentioned that she gives the list of pros and cons, and that usually causes questions. And questions are just another form of an objection. When
Yes.
somebody raises their hand and has a question, so just teaching moment for the whole team. When somebody raises their hand and says, I have a question, that underlying question, it really has an objection. And as soon as we, as the business owners, can handle that and settle that, then they get another micro commitment. We get another micro yes. And
Hmm.
that makes it easier for our customers to move into a good buying decision when it's a right fit for them.
Yeah, and on that topic, when that's also the reason that your frequently asked questions section on your page is just objections that you're
Yeah.
answering. So you're pre-answering those objections.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is
Uh,
funny because, don't we notice that when you ask those questions in your business often enough, you start to see the same objections come up over and over and over again.
yeah. So
Just worded differently. Like somebody has a different perspective, but the kind of the underlying thought is the same. Do you notice this with your clients as well?
absolutely. It's
Mhm.
always something around time or money.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yeah.
So have
Yeah.
those locked and loaded. You need to know
Yeah.
those answers.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So
So
simple. I love it.
yeah,
You cut right to the chase.
let's talk about the money objection because
Yeah.
that's one of them that's going to come up.
Yep.
When that comes up, the things that you want to dig into are, can you reduce the scope somewhere? Is something a
Hmm.
bigger priority than something else that's part of there? Do they only need to start? Can they do this in milestones? Could you
Yeah.
chunk this out so it could be less cost and do one project and then another project?
Yeah.
And then other ways are like adding bonuses and
Hmm.
adding like time sensitivity to the offer.
Hmm.
So I often teach, which was taught to me, that offer to discount the signature offer with the price of the gateway offer. So apply the cost of that gateway offer to it because
Hmm.
you would have been doing that work anyway through discovery and onboarding.
Hmm.
So, but that should expire. Give it like
Yeah.
14 days and that expires. So that
Yeah.
gives a little time sensitivity to moving forward. So
Hmm.
your sales cycle is a lot shorter. 'Cause a lot of
Yeah.
times, they'll go on forever. If they have infinity to
Mhm.
decide, they will.
Right. 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 Yeah. That part. So just so everybody listening, what Sarah just said, in the buying cycle being stretched out, that's human nature. We all do that, right? We're getting bombarded with lots of information. Our lives are fruitful and busy. We have a lot of things going on. But if I'm not forced to make a decision by a certain time frame, then my brain, not because I want to or need to or anything weird, it's just sometimes my brain will say, oh, I'm going to file that away. Anita, you can
Yeah.
do that later. Sarah, you can do that later. Buyer, you can do that later. And so, what Sarah's talking about is creating the marketing terms for that, or there's two of them. There's urgency and scarcity, are two of the marketing terms that go around with that. So, do you have any scarcity that you recommend that your clients put in their offer?
Yeah, there's two things that I usually will throw out there if, well, one, to get an answer sooner, and two, if someone's pushing back on doing it. You can use these in two different ways. So,
Okay.
one is adding, like, offering to apply the cost of that gateway offer to the
Mhm.
signature offer, but
Yep.
only for the next 14 days. So,
Okay.
that's one way to add scarcity. Another one is if they're coming close to that deadline and they haven't yet, you could offer bonuses. Like if you commit within X amount of days, then
Mhm.
you can get an extra consulting call, or
Okay.
I'll throw in X. It
Yeah.
could be templates or whatever, something easy
Yeah.
and low commitment. So those are just a couple ways that you can add some scarcity and help people make that decision faster.
Okay. Do you have a framework that you recommend that your clients build their offers on? Like, for instance, whatever the price point is there a certain number of X value that you recommend that they put in their offers? Do you use anything like that?
No, nothing like that. What I move people through when they're building out what their signature offer will be is
Hmm.
I start by having them write down like what is each step that you take through with a typical client and
Hmm.
then build out a framework from that because a lot of times they'll think like I'm going through this process, this is what I do, but they don't
Yeah.
think about it in terms of it actually being a framework. When in
Yeah.
reality, that's what you're doing. Every journey you take people through, if it's the same pretty much, it's a
Yeah.
framework.
Hmm.
So document that, find the high value pieces of it,
Hmm.
and like what outcomes people will get in the end from it and highlight those.
Okay.
So that's what I do. But I don't always look at tying the value to like the pricing of it.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's hard to do depending on what your skill set is, what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Do you ever coach your clients to have, are they like the sole deliverer of the offers, or do you coach your clients to bring other experts into their offers and partner up?
Well, a lot of my clients are solo consultants, so
Hmm.
they are doing it on their own. What I
Hmm.
like to do though is bring in collaborators
Hmm.
and partners in the content piece because
Yeah.
they prefer to just keep that profit in house. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe if like a client needs something bigger, they'll refer and get a referral bonus from somebody. That's
Yeah.
typically how they'll work. But bringing in those collaborators that share the same audience as you, but do something different is such a
Hmm.
great way to borrow your audience and like
Yeah.
list grow hack.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, I love that. Okay. Is there anything else on this step that you want to talk about?
No, I think we've talked entry offers.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I notice is that there's a question around, where are my people gathering? Some will say
Yes.
it has to be platform specific. I'm going to go through a couple of different alternatives. Some will say you have to be platform specific. Some gurus out there will say you have to be on every single platform. Some people, I know there's some people in some of my masterminds, they're like, I am not on social at all. And so
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out where their people are congregating. So how do you figure out that piece? How do you help somebody walk through if they're like, I don't know where my people are gathering. How can you help somebody kind of unlock that awareness so that because really what it boils down to when we're blocked in business, we're just not aware. That's all.
Hmm.
Like the answers already exist around
Yeah,
us.
they exist.
Right? We just need some, which is one of the reasons why if you're going to hire somebody like Sarah or hire an expert in that any space, that's one of the reasons we do it. It's because we want to become aware of what we're currently unaware of, and that's why we're stuck. So it helps us get unstuck. So if somebody's kind of stuck in this area and wondering, like I'll give you a practical example. So I handle one of the offers I have is helping large scale, like 7 to 9 figure businesses that are in the middle of a software implementation. Specifically, that software is SAP, although it doesn't matter. And they're in what we call escalation. So that
Hmm.
means they're on the verge of lawsuit, possibly. They're definitely behind schedule and they're definitely over budget. And we want to be able to find those clients to be able to serve them. So, how can we find those kinds of people?
So the first, like, here, I'll tell you the most accurate but a little bit longer way to do it. And
Yes.
then there's like a fast track way where like you could start here. So
Awesome.
the first thing I recommend is scheduling connection calls with is I would say start with like 5 connection
Okay.
calls. And they're 15 minutes, so they're not a ton of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We're just having a conversation with people that fall within that dream client bucket.
Okay.
And it's a typical networking call where you're like, tell me about your business, I'll tell you about mine. How can we help each other? But
Yep.
in that conversation, find out where they spend their time online, if they're part of
Hmm.
any communities. I
Yep.
always ask that question, and I do a lot
Yep.
of connection calls.
Yep.
So that is going to be the most streamlined and accurate way of doing it. Now, high level, if you just want to like jump and you don't have anyone to talk to
Hmm.
about it, one hack I've been doing for years and years is going to like media companies that
Oh,
serve the same audience as me and checking their media kit to see where they have the most engaged
oh,
audience.
interesting.
And that's where I start.
I love that. Tell me more about that. Like if I tell, what do you, can you break that down a little bit further?
Yeah. So let's say you're serving entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So you go to entrepreneur.com, the magazine.
Yep.
You go to their media kit, which is usually in the advertisers section.
Hmm.
Download it, they're always free.
Yep.
And you can check out where they have the most followers because they'll put that on there on the media kit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then just like go to each of those platforms, see which is most engaged,
Hmm.
and start there. That's an
Oh,
easy place to start.
such gold, Sarah. You are incredible. I love this. You're
Oh,
so
thank you.
helpful. Okay, any other elements of the lean marketing engine that we you want to break down a little bit further for everybody?
Let's just dig in a little bit more on that main channel topic that we were talking about. So
Yep.
you said that, like, should you be everywhere?
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
If you have a small business and you don't have platform specific people managing each of those, like
Hmm.
channel managers is what they're
Yeah.
typically called, then you
Hmm.
know you're never going to build a community and have engagement on all of those platforms. Just pick the one where it's a full on watering hole and it's like,
Yeah.
woohoo, all my clients are here.
Yeah.
And that could be niche communities, those small like Slack groups or heartbeat groups where like a niche community is spending time. Let's say it's SAP
Yeah.
consultants,
Hmm.
all spend time on this Slack channel, hang out there. You get
Yeah.
to be a big fish in a small pond. And
Yeah.
I set
Yeah.
up keyword alerts for that. So, you know how crowded they can be, where you're like, okay, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
can go into your settings in Slack and put in keywords so you're alerted only when those topics come up. So you can be the first person
Oh,
to answer questions.
I love that. In the answering question for you, are we, what's the only word that comes to mind is posture. What's the posture or the balance between in your opinion, of I'm serving to I'm offering? I'm creating an offer for somebody to connect with me more. What do you, how do you walk your clients through that?
I always thread offers in every serve. So, what I do is I'll answer the question. And if it's appropriate, I'll offer, like, hey, we could do a 15-minute connection call. I can walk you through this concept.
Nice.
And then we can have a conversation. And in that, inevitably, they'll ask me more about what I do. I can tell them about my offer then.
Hmm.
Um, and the same goes with everything. I always
Yeah.
offer thread in value. So every social, like LinkedIn is my primary channel.
Hmm.
Every value post I create, I'll have a super signature or a PS line that will tell them what I do, how they can connect with me.
I love that.
Every email that I send, I will, like every content piece that I'm sharing in that email, I'll
Hmm.
connect it to an offer that I'll have in there. And you can do that in like a little offer section or a PS line.
Hmm.
Just
I love that.
thread your offers and everything.
One thing that I notice oftentimes is that sometimes people struggle with differentiating themselves, right? Like you're in marketing, like, okay, what's the different, what is it that you bring so maybe let's talk about that a little bit is how do we help people really differentiate themselves in the market of, well, I'm an SAP consultant, I'm a genius marketer, I know about funnels, whatever it is that you do, you can fill in the blank. I know about conflict resolution, blah, blah, blah. But being able to differentiate yourself a little bit, because don't we know that we can all do something similar, but the way that you bring your value to the marketplace and the way that I bring my value to the marketplace is different, even though
Yes.
we could be doing the exact same, it looks like the exact same thing or have a very similar background. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that is a massive part of what I do inside the Tiny Marketing Club. So, the
Yeah.
first thing that we do is we have a one-to-one strategic spark session.
Hmm.
And in that, I always find that differentiator. So, here's a little thing that in Tiny Marketing Club, there's at least five fractional finance people.
Okay.
And on the surface, you'd think that they're all exactly the same, but we
Mhm.
have found a different angle for every single one of them.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is in one, the dream client,
Hmm.
like who is it that you're serving and what is the biggest impact that they are getting from that? So we just
Love it.
talk through that. And then two, the signature offer. So, what is the journey that you're taking someone
Hmm.
through? What can they expect at the end? And by combining those two things, you can find your differentiator.
I love that. I love that. So powerful. It also helps, people are familiar with like the imposter syndrome idea,
Yeah.
which my logical mind, I'm very logical. My logical mind says, part of me says that makes no sense that I should think that I'm somebody else. But then then I show up in rooms where people are, they have a 10 million or 100 million or 400 million dollar business, and I'm a little bit like, I'm not there yet. So I both equally do not understand it and understand it at the same time. But I love what you're talking about, Sarah, because anything I believe that we can do as entrepreneurs to remove and wipe away from your brain the lie that somehow you're not you and the value that you bring to the marketplace is not enough, or you're not as good as somebody else, or like that lie just
Yeah.
gets extracted out in so many ways. So hopefully right now we can just break that lie off people that are listening today, because what Sarah and I are talking about um, creating offers in the marketplace, differentiating yourself, talking about an outcome that you get for somebody else, that actually the freedom that happens when you get these pieces dialed in, it's so cool because you get to show up just being you, like bringing your
Yeah.
magnificence to the marketplace with your like your signature system or blueprint or formula or whatever great naming convention you want to come along with, the pillars of what you walk through. So if you listened really closely to what Sarah was talking about, and the reason I'm going over this is because it's super important that we as entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, that we know this, that there's more than enough going on in the marketplace. There's more than enough business for everybody. There's more than enough for Sarah. There's more than
Absolutely.
enough for me. There's more than enough for everybody that's listening right now, with more than enough to take care of all of our households, with more than enough left over. Like there's an abundance of business out there for those of us that are willing to just wipe clean those lies and step into what we have, the purpose that we have in our life in this season.
I have found that people feel imposter syndrome the most when something is natural to them and they don't
Oh.
feel like they earned it or they don't
Mm,
realize they're as good at it as they
yeah.
really are. It's like, I didn't really have to work for this skill set that
Mhm.
makes you feel like you don't deserve the praise that you get.
Yeah.
And you know what? For myself, I had to work really hard to get this skill set. I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And still, when people praise me for the things that I'm able to do, I'm like, I don't really deserve that. It feels second nature to me now,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
still feel that way even after
Yeah.
all these years.
Right. 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 I think it's okay. First of all, like side note, it's it's adorable that you said that you've been at this for 20 years, because you look like you're about the age of my stepson
Thank
right about
you.
now. So I think that's awesome. That's just side note for us ladies. uh,
Thank you, retinol.
yes. But I also love just being able to I just want to empower somebody today to step into the greatness. I'm going to put it in the framework. And if you're listening and this is not your framework, that's totally cool. But the purpose that God's already put on inside of you, the gifts that you already have inside of you, like the desires that you already have inside of you to be able to be an expert in a certain area, like the answer is yes, go do more of that.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't it make sense that we would play to our strengths and be able to serve the market in those strengths and then be able to minimize our weaknesses so that we can like I don't know why I did this for a
Hard
long
does
time in
not
my
mean better.
I know. I did this for a long time because in the corporate world I was taught, Anita, you have to work more. You have to work harder. What you're doing is not enough. And all this messaging that, and like, I always call it like the HR lie that somehow there's like this work-life balance if I'm working 80 hours a week for somebody else. And it was like, that's, that is not accurate. I can't possibly serve my household, my marriage, my health, my children,
Yeah.
and all the kind if I'm doing 80 hours of anything for anybody else. And so
Nobody deserves that much of me.
that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I just want to encourage somebody as we're laughing and joking about it, but this is genuinely like this is where my heart's always at for clients is being able to help them step into the greatness that's already inside them, like step more into the power that they already have, step more into the skill sets that they already have that are amazing, that do, like Sarah said, that come easy and naturally to you. It doesn't mean that you don't work at them. It doesn't mean that you don't improve
Yeah.
them. It doesn't mean that you're not a consummate, you guys can see all my books in the background. It doesn't mean that you're not constantly studying to, improve and tweak and refine and all that kind of stuff. But each and every one of us has skill sets that come more naturally to us than others. That the market needs. People genuinely need what you have to offer.
Yeah. I would just add if something feels good and easy and excites you, that's your thing.
Yeah.
There's do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Life is meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Hey, Sarah, is there a way that as we wrap up our podcast today, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate just you, who you are. I just want to honor you, the way that you serve your clients,
Thank
the way that
you.
you show up in the marketplace is really, it's spectacular. It's really, really incredible. So thank you so much for just sharing all these like thousands of nuggets of wisdom with
Thank
us. I
you.
totally appreciate that. But then also, is there another way that people can connect with you if they want to learn more?
Yes. Well, sarahnoelblock.com is my website. But if you go to events.sarahnoelblock.com, that's where you can get access to all of my free events and be the first to be notified. And I do them a lot.
Super cool. I love it. I love it. Any last thoughts as we wrap up today, Sarah?
Um, I guess my last thought would be if there is one place to start, it would be to implement that entry point offer, a gateway
Mm,
offer, first thing. So, because that will feed and inform your entire engine.
yeah, so good. Ah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and just everything that you've been able to share with the audience today. So
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks everybody for being here with us. We'll look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Anello, just signing out today. Take care.